All right. Man, well, thank you, Lauren, for being here and handling this, just hanging out with me while we figure out, yeah, getting onto Facebook and all this jazz. I don't even know where to start now. I'm a little bit thrown from not being able to get on, but
Journey, but now we're here.
we're here. And yeah, if anyone else joins, they should automatically be let into the space. So, but yeah, for anyone who's watching the replay, didn't get a chance to come into this sacred special room with us today, yeah, please feel free to reach out with any questions. Just tag me and I'll make sure that I get to you as per usual. And then, yeah, hopefully I'll figure out how to get live next time. But yeah, today I asked Lauren to join and share her experience of being in the brand lab and sharing her transformation from you came in feeling like you had a brand identity crisis, which was what you called it, and the energy around where you were. I think it actually came forward in like the second week. I think the first week you came in like, I'm ready, guns a blazing, I feel good. And then the second week there was just like some just heavy, that's when it kind of came forward for you. And the energy was this like, there's no easy way to fix this. I don't really see a way forward. Like, should I even be doing this work? Like it was a pretty, you came in like with a pretty heavy, you had a pretty heavy up leveling moment that as entrepreneurs, especially spiritual entrepreneurs who are dipping into this world that is a little bit unique, I guess, or different from the outside world, it can bring up a lot. So, but yeah, being able to see that you were like kind of in that stage of an up level, and how do we hold you through that and get you to a space where you are tuning into how your brand comes through. I remember also, I don't know why this is just coming up now, but I remember before we started, you had said that it was you that like you had seen your color palette, but you didn't know how they were like before we started Brand Lab, but you didn't know how it was supposed to like work together. And so we kind of had an idea to work off of, but then it evolved a little bit and now it's kind of like super fine tuned. But
Yeah. So it was interesting because when you did last time, when you were running the promotion, which I think you'll do again, the meditation where, we go and we see our brand colors. And I saw so clearly that it was like green and like this lightish purple and like yellow or gold, like somehow in it. And I was like, okay, like this has to be it. And then once I started like coming to the class and whatever, I was like, I hate this. I was like, this is totally not it. And it came to me all through this intuitive download, and now I do not like it at all. And we worked through that. And yeah, I was definitely in a place of crisis where I was like, I pretty much have to stop my business because there's no way to brand this.
yeah, I can't exist.
Yeah, I can't exist.
Yeah. Do you mind just sharing what your work is in the world and what we, just tell us a little bit about what you do and what you offer.
Yes. So I'm an intuitive medium channel. I do Reiki. I have a bunch of everything. Like my intuitive readings really run the gambit, like from relationship readings to like spirit babies to past lives to ancestral stuff. And I combine my readings are usually in half intuitive work, half energy healing, and combining the two. And it just everything to me in my mind when I came to the course felt like so random. And I was like, I have like these like lists of like 15 things I can do, but they're like all over the place and feels so super scattered. And you've experienced my work, so that was also another super helpful thing for working with you. But we came around to in one of the sessions, I think it was when we were working on like taglines and really what we call ourselves as healers, because there's so many things to call ourselves. We ended up calling me, I think, intuitive healing and soul support guide, which really like arriving on that was insane to me because I was like, wow, there can like be a word for this that like actually feels good to me
Yeah.
and like can really like to myself like make sense.
Yeah.
Um, because people call themselves all these things and I'm sometimes like what is it? So
Yeah.
it felt really important to me to find something that I really connected to. And the night, I forget what the specific night was, but figuring that out was like monumental to me in my identity crisis of what's
Yeah.
going on here.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like being able to understand what your name is and like how you say what I am,
Yeah.
or what I'm facilitating. And I think in this space, like, over the past year, a lot of people are coming forward and becoming entrepreneurs and showing their faces, publicly, digitally. And there is a large saturation. Like that's just the truth of it. And each one of us has, you know, um, I think it's a common feeling, a common feeling to want to feel like I have something worthy to share with the world, and I'm unique and I'm special. And I think that's actually very true. I think each one of us does have our own, fingerprint that we put on whatever work we do, whether you are in the healing field or say you're a designer. You always have like, I'm obviously using my two spaces, but um, you have your way of doing certain things which nobody else has, and that will always be the case. But it's very easy for us to get caught up in how it is expressed verbally and visually, feeling like, oh, it's just the same as everybody else. And I know that that was something you were concerned about, like not feeling special, or not wanting to feel too special, like this weird kind of push pull of like being able to be seen for what you're doing and being able to, share it in a way that feels good and authentic to you so that you can be confident when you are sharing. Um, and I think at some point, we'll pop in to your board and stuff, but do you want to talk a little bit about, we talked before hopping on here about sharing some of the roadblocks that were in the way of you feeling like you can fully express or connect to what was being expressed, because again, that first early on in the course, you came in, I'll just say like very Tauran with that Taurus like sort of stubborn energy of like, nope, there's no way. Like I feel like I need to just like go crawl under my blankets and like wait until this passes kind of thing. And it was really beautiful to see, just like it was like within a week, to see some of the images that you had pulled, and how I went in there and built out some of your board for you, and being able to share back like, how does this feel? Like, does this feel like you? Um, so, and now I'm already going all over the place, but do you want to talk a little bit about what we connected with that block around feeling like not feeling like you could be special or unique to you?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to, it's like I feel like, the Facebook circles I'm in, the spiritual community that I'm connected to, everyone is such a talented healer. And I feel like everyone I know is just so, so good. And I was like, well, who am I to like show up and like claim like I'm as like good as these people?
Yeah.
And that combined with this fear of being seen, but like wanting to be seen and really wanting to be special at the same time, was really conflicting for me. And I think that I was also having a hard time people being like, yeah, your work is really great, but not being able to like verbalize like exactly where it fit in or exactly where it did. And I was like, no one can describe my work. Like, so therefore, like it's not that great. Number two, everyone is already immensely talented. And like I want to feel special. Like I think all of these other people are
Yeah.
special. Um, and I'm simultaneously afraid to show up in that way. And
Yeah.
I think also being a healer, like it feels like there are some classic stereotypes of wanting to be seen. And then, again, as we said, a saturated field of everyone is really good. And
Yeah.
how can you be special within all of that?
Totally. No, totally. I feel like, sorry, I just adjusted the view because I realized that sweet Emma was just like sitting in there, like, you know, with no video on. So I was like, oh, I should probably change this. So thanks. Thanks, Emma. I was like, that would have been, because we're going to screen share and stuff. So I want to make sure that we can see, we have like the full length of the screen. I just want to first say to you, Lauren, like, I really appreciate your vulnerability in sharing like that, that feeling. I think that some people come to me and they feel like they're not cool enough. Like, that like cool wound where like, oh, there's like the cool kids that are in this space and but how do I fit in there? Or like you feel like you've been blessed if somebody that you've looked up to in that space like likes a photo of yours or something like that. Like that's like that's a thing that I feel like we've dealt with, growing up our whole lives. And we think as adults, we just like grow out of it, but we don't. There are actual, there's like, there is an invitation for healing to be done if that is an experience that you're having. That doesn't, I'm just acknowledging that as like another common theme that I see. But with you, I feel like I also experienced something very similar when I was starting to build my brand, and my my business came about, over the course of years. So it's been very slow and like quiet and kind of steadily coming out. And then 2020, as with most people, it kind of, that's when it all became really visible. But visibility, being afraid of being seen for what you're showing up with it's like a human, it's like a very common thing that all of us experience. And it's like, just because it's common doesn't mean it's like not a big deal. And each person has a really unique reason why you're holding on to that, or why that might still be a block for you. And so for you, sorry, go ahead.
No. Finish your thought.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that it was interesting. So for you, we did a one-on-one healing session around this particular experience. And for those that some of you may know, some of you may not know, I work as a healer as well with the modality emotional polarity technique. And I'll just give a brief overview that basically it's, me tuning into your body to see where you're holding stuck energy, which is negative emotions in different organs. And we release those and discover the story around why they're there, and link back to the root of how this pattern started, to really zero in on that experience, that event, that conflict, whatever, to resolve that wound so that your system, your soul can let it go so that you can move forward. And particularly what was so interesting about Lauren's case is that, and this has been happening a lot lately, but like this was not this life thing. Obviously the pattern was, the root of it wasn't from this life, but the pattern is something that you've experienced your whole life. This like push pull of wanting to feel special and be seen, but also not wanting to be seen, and not believing that you can be special or unique or whatever. And this went back 6 lives for you and connected to a deeply traumatic sexually traumatic event where it wasn't safe for you to receive the attention that in this life 6 years ago you received attention for being special or for being the best at something, and it actually is what like attracted harm to you. So without getting into all of the nitty-gritty details for anyone, part of the healing was being able to resolve that conflict. And there was a lot of rage, toward the offender and toward yourself for allowing yourself to be in that position and stuff like that. Please excuse my hair. It's Moon Day Monday. Anyway, I'm feeling like, because this is like such a different format, I feel like totally thrown. So for those that are watching, I really appreciate you like hanging out here. But yeah, so I don't know I could go in and talk more specifically about what, what some of those things were. But what we were able to do is release this pattern and belief system that it's actually not safe to be special. So like the part of you in this life that's like, I'm ready to share my gifts. Like you've developed them. Like Lauren is incredibly, incredibly talented. We continue to work together, like incredibly talented. And in all things, in all things intuitive. And so I think it's really important to just notice that like in your current expression, you might want something and it might make sense to you to want that thing, but then you feel like, you can't move forward in a certain way and you don't really know why. And like, this wouldn't make sense. Like, if we were just looking at this from like a current lens, it's like, well, Lauren, just like put yourself out there, feel the fear and do it anyway. Like, just, you're supposed to show up. You're supposed to take messy action, like all that stuff, which I think in some cases totally works and helps you to build a resiliency. But in other cases, when there's like deeply lodged trauma that hasn't been addressed, it's actually like more damaging. It actually tells your psyche that like you are continuing to perpetuate something that wasn't safe for you and that you are actually not on your own soul's side, if you will. So it kind of perpetuates that feeling of it not being safe, for you to really show up. I saw that Emma made a comment, so I'm just going to try. Yeah, Emma, it's not safe to be special. Like totally hits home. I'm like, this is why I'm here, because like we have these beautiful gifts and dreams and things we want to share with the world. But the whole point of having this business is to be able to help people. And if you're like not able to post on Instagram or even get your website up or whatever, start an email list, how are people supposed to know that you're there to help them? Right? Like it sounds like day one stuff to like hurdle over, but I think that for a lot of people, that day one thing is like really a big layer that we can't, some people, I very much feel like some people come here with a lot less on their shoulders, right? Everyone has a different experience. We all come here with different experiences, but what I think that this course is sort of for, and combining the healing work with this course helps you to really build a healthy foundation so that you can really grow from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think I also want to say about the healing that we did, that it was so interesting that it was this event, this past life event, and was being flagged in my business, but also shows up in my relationships and like other like areas of your life. So like what is coming up, the healing you're doing here in your business for your branding really extends into every aspect of your world and makes super sense from the other. Like I think I was holding this in my liver, my stomach, my kidney, like places you wouldn't even think you're holding this stuff, which is really interesting about your work. But also it being a sexual trauma was a sacral chakra issue, which is just so connected to work as well. So to see how events that aren't even related to work show up as work issues. In the opposite is like really fascinating to unpack and uncover. And then it was almost like instantaneously the next day, I was like, okay, like I'm special and I'm not jealous of anyone anymore. I know I'm just as good. And like good. The next day, like I woke up, was like, I'm great.
Yeah.
So it happens. And I recommend to anybody considering healing with you or doing the course, sign up now so you can receive this extra help, because it's just crazy how fast it works and what you can move through like really easily to clear like a really critical hurdle. Like I didn't think like I could even like post on Instagram or I had any content to, and we'll show the content and all the stuff, but like now there's like a million things. So
yeah, you have a ton of avenues now. It's like, whoo.
Yeah. So it was a really necessary shift for me to make.
Yeah. We'll dive into that work just for those that are watching. So part of Lauren and I coming on here and sharing Lauren's experience is to share that the next round of the Brand Lab is open. Doors are open. We are starting on May 12th. It is an 8-week. The original was 6 weeks, so I've extended it based on how that went with everybody, but it's an 8-week live course where I walk you through all the steps to build the foundation for your brand and also start executing. So building assets that are, that you can start using right away, right? Because I'm a big believer of, it's not about like having everything finished and then all of a sudden you come out. It's just like we continue to build momentum. You post, you start showing up, you start using your voice, and each step of the way. And this has just been my personal process, and this is how I've kept. How do I say this? I feel like this is the kindest approach I could have for my own nervous system and my own
Yes.
dysregulation that naturally occurs, and being able to, handle what's happening in the real world as well, right? Like our businesses are these like little micro silos of beauty that we're trying to bring into the world. At the same time, there's a lot happening that's really painful. And I just think none of this is separate. Like you were saying, the healing relates to your relationships and relates to your community and relates to even like just how you start seeing yourself like in the mirror. Like all the things are very connected. And in my opinion, we can do all these things, but it's just like step by step by step. So yes, right now, if you sign up for the course, I am offering, I'm including a one-on-one session. That's a 90-minute private session with me to address any of those blocks that are sort of keeping you from moving forward in general in your business. It doesn't have to be, I'm afraid of being seen, or maybe I don't think I'm cool enough. It could be, this is something that it's like a personal thing that I've worked through, but it's like, I have something I know I want to say, but I don't know how to like let it come out, like, some throat chakra healing. Those are really common things that I see with people who are doing this beautiful work. Let me think if there's anything else. I think I'll just start sharing.
Yeah. And what I want to say about my board now that I think you're going to pull up. So while you're pulling this up, it was interesting because you had us make these boards, the Pinterest the Pinterest board came after, but I started pulling images for this board. So I guess maybe you can explain what it is. I don't want to jump the gun here.
No, you are great. I realized that I have a lot of tabs open.
So we started making these boards, and it's kind of like a vision board for for what your brand's going to be. And this really was a transformative exercise because it's kind of like putting in like who you want to be and then like embodying that, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So it's like the vision of how you see yourself. And oddly, like not oddly, but the cool thing about it is that doing it like really allowed me to like step into it. And for someone who was super confused about what that was, like this really helped me kind of conceptualize everything.
Yeah, we are such visual creatures. Obviously, the language is super important too, like the way we articulate ourselves. But, and I think everybody's path is a little bit different, and it depends on what feels right for you, of course. But being able to build out your brand world, which is what I'm calling this, it's a set of, in the course, I give everybody this template so you can start building. And then I also go in and help you. So like there's a lot of one-on-one hands-on assistance here from me being able to like see what I know about you and your work and how you're showing up, and actually how you're starting to, list out your attributes and understand what your pillars are, which we'll go into those like another time. But that's like something we just deep dive in the course. But being able to see a visual representation of a space that like, because it gives you like a visceral, like reaction in your body. So being able to, like you were saying, embody it. The reason why I was going into that is because before I was like public with my work, I had a lot of people, friends who knew what I was studying and friends like that let me practice on them and things like that. But one of the first things I did was actually get photos of myself taken. And I set up a photo shoot with a photographer that I had just admired for a long time. And I guess I was living in Denver at the time. But she's based in Ohio. And one of the first exercises for me after building out my brand world, or building out the version of my brand world that existed back then, it's definitely a very different expression now because it has evolved over the course of 6 years, 6 or 7 years. But 2017, whatever that is, it's evolved. And so anyway, one of the first exercises for me was getting these photos taken, because I got to see, and which are the photos that you see of me. They were taken in like a long time ago. I mean, now we could say it's probably time for me to update them or whatever, but being able to see myself in these images and have a photographer capture me. I had a friend there with me, doing the work and, building out the vision of the energetic expression that I wanted to be in, and also wanted others to feel from me. It was an incredibly empowering experience. Like, not only like, oh, you have a bunch of photos that you can use. I'll just be like totally transparent. Getting pictures, I think it's hard. I think for most people, it's hard to have pictures done of yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's like really intimidating, and usually you never like them and all that stuff. So anyway, in the course, I talk about how to get really good pictures, because you actually can control some of that, and how to work with some of the stuff that comes forward when you are nervous getting your photos done. But for me, that was a really key thing, being able to see myself actually in practice, which most people, when you're building out a brand, would say that that's like not step one or step two. It's like after you have like some of your assets done, your logo figured out, and that just isn't the way it worked for me. So the reason I'm going into that is just that each one of us has different needs, in terms of how we step forward, and none of it's wrong. None of like the way you go in with this, you can go in from any direction, and it's all about just continuing to build and build the same energy that you started, that you want to be out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that I really appreciated that you did throughout the course was like we were all met with where we were at, and you really held space for meeting that, but then holding the greater view of what our brand was, and teaching us that was going to evolve, and we weren't always going to be this and we weren't always going to be that, and kind of allowing for like messiness in the process as we figure it all out.
Yeah, because we're human. Like,
Yeah.
that's just part of it. Yeah. And I mean, you're such a perfect example because you do so many things. I mean, you didn't even speak about like, you also like are a licensed massage therapist, and
Oh yeah.
physical body work, and you understand like,
Mention that. Okay, yes, I also
yeah,
do body work.
deep understanding of nutrition, and like you do craniosacral. Like, there's just, you kind of have this endless list of things that you can offer. And so, how are you supposed to represent that in a succinct way? Part of the benefit of a brand is that you're building trust with people, and how you build trust with people is by showing up consistently, in a way that feel like just makes people see you over and over again, and they can connect into your energy, and make a decision for themselves if they feel like they trust you or not. So
Yeah.
is like it's like super key. It's number one for that, because the whole point of having a brand is that people are starting to see you in a consistent space, and like get you, like they just can understand you. And
Yeah.
so yeah, now you have, an expression that is still growing. And I do talk about that a lot, where allowing for that space to flex, allowing for the space to grow into whatever your brand is supposed to grow into.
Yeah.
For me, when I first came forward, it was very, very soft and really subtle and very quiet. And, now I'm showing up a little more bold, and I'm sure that will continue to happen as time goes on. But yeah, so we landed here, similar color palette to what you channeled, but able to like really define, that like this kind of triangle of colors here was sort of like this key expression for you. I won't go into all the things, but I do want to acknowledge that a brand world, this page here, I mean, I consider the brand world the combination of your attributes, your pillars, your logo, your color palette, the vision, the energy behind it. This document, we have space for inspiration, different font pairings. Like it's a very exploratory document, that we played with, and then additional inspiration, things that didn't make it to the brand world. What I want to say is that this houses, again, inspiration. So thinking about it like a vision board, for example, most of these images are not images that you actually use in your branding. Most of these images are just the energetic expression that you've seen out there. I want to the reason why I want to acknowledge that is this is a healer. Her name is Deborah Hannekamp, that many people might be familiar with. So we're not saying that you would actually post a picture of her, on social media, but it helps you to step back and be like, this is almost like a guide. And it's actually not, if you look at her whole brand, it's not her whole brand, it's just the expression that comes through in this photo. What we really liked about it was the translucency and transparency of light, and this sense of being able to connect to an ethereal realm in a way that is it also comes across very angelic and of the natural world, sort of this bridge between the two worlds, our physical world and the spiritual, unseen world, which links perfectly, obviously, into all of your intuitive work. And understanding your astrology, Lauren is a South Node Scorpio, North Node Taurus. And this just I feel like it's this image and your expression come together really beautifully. So understanding that imagery on this board, most of it, I think for yours, most of these are not images that you would use in your branding, but they guide and direct. So also, if Lauren wanted to hire someone like a VA or a designer to continue building out assets, you don't have you have a website, but you're planning on redoing it, you could hand this off to a web designer and have them build based off of your foundation, so that everybody is on the same page. Yeah. What should we go into next? Did you have anything to say about that? Sorry.
No, I just think that it's just a really cool process, because I think, as you said, it allows you to visualize the energetics of your business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's if we even talked through what they all mean, it would take forever. But for example, that one with the green and gold pieces
in here.
Yeah, the dark one with the gold.
Oh, maybe you can't see my cursor.
Not the cat.
Oh, at the top.
Yeah, but that stands for me and my intuitive sessions being able to see the missing pieces that need to come together to help the person that I'm reading for. So it's just a really cool exercise in being able to visualize, because we're often able to verbalize, and your expertise is really putting it together the other way.
It's funny because I feel like people either come they know what they like, but they don't know how to talk about it, or the opposite. I know what I do, I can talk endlessly, but I don't know how to curate that and see it visually. And so,
yes,
I'm
not a visual person at all.
Yeah. So I want to show, so this came together pretty early on, maybe the third week or so. And what I do in the course is also put together a board for each person on Pinterest. And this is sort of, it's where all the things can be housed. So anything that you feel is inspiration, we can collaborate and drop images into here. For example, this was pulled recently for you for more for a layout idea. So that Reiki one, which I didn't show you that, but we'll go into your social media posts in a minute, but one of the layouts that we worked with was inspired by this. Some of this stuff is just really obviously you saw this on the board. This one here talks about just energy and transformation and density and lightness. Maybe those aren't the correct colors for Lauren, but this can just be used as inspiration. Like maybe that's how maybe in Canva, she takes an image and duplicates it and modifies it the way you can modify it in Canva with a different filter that matches her color palette and gives that same kind of impression. Let's see. So yeah, just scrolling through. So, whoever's watching can get a sense of like, what comes together for you as an individual. This was something curated for Lauren, and her brand.
And this is really like also part of your genius is being able to pull these pictures, because it was super helpful for me. Some of the when I was looking on Pinterest myself, I was like, I can't even find anything right now. And then you came in and you had all these great suggestions and things. So I think you are able to, with what people give you, really turn it into this amazing thing, and you know what to look for, and you know all the things.
I know everything. No, I think curating imagery has always been something that I've been good at. And I found through this process of building this course that, it's really helpful for anyone who's trying to build their brand to have this, like, you feel seen. You're like, oh, yes, that feels like me. Yes, that feels like me.
Yes.
All these things together feels like me. Now, like I said, many of these things did not make it onto the board, but it's additional flavor so that you like can be totally immersed in and always go back to and be inspired by, what these layouts are or what the meaning of the images are, so you can find more things on your own.
Yeah.
Let's see, we're going to go to we have a lot of documents in here, but just to give like an expression of, another part of the course is once we have the brand world mostly figured out, we start to play with, this is sort of coming to life, we start to play with how things start coming through for you in whatever medium you're ready to work in. So for you, it was social media, like wanting to be able to see how you can show up on Instagram and, Facebook and things of that nature. And so, oh, hi, Karen. Karen just joined.
Yeah.
Oh, so fun. Yeah, so Karen, just so you know, having some issues getting on Facebook Live. So we're just in a Zoom room instead, and walking through some of the examples of Lauren's work and how things have shifted and et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully you can see the connection to, the brand board of obviously color palette, but the essence and energy. Now, this is probably obvious, but everything that has this like Reiki background is an iteration of each other. It's not something that, like Lauren's not going to post all of those, but
I might. But I would just like to point out, show the terrible one that I started with.
Okay, so Lauren came to class.
How good Beth is I gave her this like ridiculous thing, the infinity loop with the group Reiki, like nothing in it, and then you make these beautiful things.
So part of the class is, and actually a big part of the class is a lot of like design work. I'm essentially teaching you basic skills of design, and I will take what you bring to me and will adjust it so that it makes sense for your brand and so that it communicates what you actually want to communicate. And so by doing this, in a group setting, everyone learns from where everybody else is. So if we're working on, Karen was working on worksheets a lot, or like downloadable PDFs, which then inspired Lauren to create a downloadable PDF or a worksheet for her clients. And, Amanda's was working on a document, which we'll show when we bring Amanda on live. It really just gives you like, you get to see how everyone is unique in the way that we work with everybody and how everyone can be expressed differently. And you start picking up different tips and tricks and understanding of, how to design in a way that that just feels intentional, basically. So there's a combination of just like basic design skills that, if that's not what you studied in school, you're not coming here with, as well as being able to get like a nice runway of assets that you can start using for your brand. So for Lauren, we really explored this concept of how she would promote her Reiki offerings. And so you can see there's a lot of iterations that, I put together for her in class. And obviously I don't think she'll use all of them, but, pick a couple that you'll use, and that will be, when she's announcing that there's a Reiki offering. And then here's a space, to share. Can you see my pointer?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Uh, a space to share like what quotes could look like. We talked about this in Karen's live, but Lauren came to me with a bunch of templates. And so what we did was, is that Jackson?
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's like grunting and growling. I'm just gonna let him out of the room here. He's like barking at me.
Which is like perfect because he's also one of your brand pillars. So Jackson gets to show up. We get to include all parts of us. But anyway, we explored how she would share testimonials in different ways with different color palettes. She had pulled this image for the hands, and I explained to her why that wasn't like a correct or perfect fit for her brand. So we started looking for different hands that she could use. Just really starting to get a sense of like how her Instagram feed could come to life in a way that is really like expressing her brand. Yeah, I'm trying to think. And also like what little elements and assets work, what doesn't work. A lot on here, is more exploratory, and we talked about what doesn't work and what does work for you. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other, Emma or Karen, if you have any comments or questions since you're on here live, I can go into that. But Lauren, can you think of any other thing that I want to show or make sure that people know about this process?
Yeah, I mean, just like you'll see in there, like I'm playing with the infinity loop as my logo, or like a few like symbols to have. That was really cool to be able to discover those. And yeah, making all the brand pillars were like the inspiration for every post on here, for things that I want to show. And then, yeah, I think that covers it for the Instagram. But like, as you were saying, like being with everybody in the group is like such an intensely like validating experience, because everybody is experiencing the same thing, even though you think you're the only one. You're really, yeah.
For sure. I feel like Karen, I feel like she was going to hop on and say something about that. Yeah, I mean, there's this program is really, the concept of it is for me to help teach you how, that concept of like teaching you how to fish. So it's not for you if you're not really looking to learn how to do these things. I think one benefit of, if you're someone who's like just getting started, or your brand doesn't really feel like you, maybe you've hired someone before. I know we had a beautiful woman in our group who had hired people before and was like, this just doesn't feel right. And really, like, for some people, it's really correct for you to be like working with your brand and building it. And for some other people, it makes more sense to just like hire it out and not have a connection to it. I think that you have more control over the energetic intention that you are putting out if you do, work with it. But, again, it's definitely not for somebody who's like, I just want to have somebody else do this for me. I do one-on-one private work for that. So if that's something you're looking for, then you can reach out to me for that. And the course is really not the right fit. But yeah, I'm trying to think.
But even so, that the vision board, the brand world that we showed before, the big page with everything on it, like you make that, then you can give it to a designer, and you don't really have to like go through all the work with them either. So I'm just going to give that to the person who does my website, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, and it will help you to like articulate when your designer brings you something and it doesn't feel right. You can go back to your board and be like, okay, I don't feel like this feels right. And here's some language to like help me, like going back to your attributes and your pillars. Okay, it doesn't quite feel like this. I want it to feel more like this. And then that will really help the designer that you're working with. I've been on that other end where I'm working with a client that doesn't know how to communicate what they want because they've never been trained to communicate in that way, or, it just doesn't come naturally. And it's a really hard relationship. So this definitely like bridges that gap so that you get what you want and they understand how to create for you, because that's like the point. That's what they want to do. Thanks,
Yeah.
Emma. I'm glad that it's been helpful. But yeah, any other questions or thoughts before we hop off here?
I really enjoyed this course in summation of everything. It was really like, I don't know what I thought of it beforehand. I was like, this will just be something, cool that I'll do, but it ended up being just such this like transformative experience. And I had no idea how much I was going to get out of it and how much of a solid brand identity I would have. And that working with you is obviously a dream. And everyone in the group was amazing. And it's just so cool, the community we've formed out of it. Now I'm in Karen's group, and I did work with Joanne from it. Like, it's all just been like one whole big circle. So it's a really cool experience.
Hey, oh, I love that. Karen, do you have any thoughts since you popped on your video?
Karen.
No, I was honestly just going back to that whole brand world, and like when you were thinking about it and just the help with communicating, whether it's communicating for ourselves from it or communicating to the next web designer or someone else to help with social media. I just I feel so happy to have that. And I feel like I don't think I would have that sense of, I think I would be that awful client that wouldn't know how to really tell you what I want. I even worked with a designer on my logo to begin with, and we could never come up with the right thing until I finally dove in and got to like really articulate what I wanted to then carry that forward. And I just feel like that brand world allows us to all, I don't know, to have that to go forward for the future people. So I just wanted to tap on that again.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing and joining this weird live recorded situation. Thank you, Facebook, for kicking me out, or Zoom, whatever. So there's some update that I have to figure out. Awesome. Well, I'm just going to close this out then. I really appreciate all of your time. So Lauren, thank you for coming on and sharing your experience. And Karen, thanks for coming back. Emma, thanks for joining live. And for anyone who's watching this afterward, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions, or if you have an interest in this next round. Doors close May 7th. I do, I have tons of resources to let you dig in a little bit if that's something you want to. So just let me know and I can just direct you in the right place to get what you need. So awesome. All right. I hope you guys have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.